Hey, everybody. I am really excited about today. I've been waiting for my friend to come and share with you in chapel. I had hoped that he could come last year, and it didn't work out. And he's my friend, and he's Dr. Newman's friend, and we met each other at Indiana Wesleyan University. I was more like a mother mentor. Yes, I am old. But out of that, we forged an intercultural friendship, and I am so proud of him. He is currently the Director of Diversity and Multicultural Affairs at Cornerstone University. He is a great example of an intercultural friendship that I have. It's one of the most valuable relationships I have, to know that I have somebody who isn't exactly like me, but that we share something good because we are connected through many ways, that we are also the same. And so I'm excited for you to hear from him today. I don't think it's by accident. I'm grateful that God would, by design, bring him to us today. And I know that you are going to honor his presence today with your kindness and goodness in this space. So will you pray with me as he makes his way up here, and that we would prepare our hearts? Thank you. God, we join with you. You are already here, and we just come into your flow of love and goodness. God, thank you that you call us friend. We are your friend, and you have taught us how to be friends with you and with others and with each other. And today, we are excited to hear from one of your friends, Ken Russell. I'm glad that he has come, and I look forward to what he is going to share. May we participate. May we enjoy. May we celebrate. May we learn. And may we grow together. Thank you for sending Ken to us today. And we look forward to what will come out of this space together. In your powerful, beautiful, and matchless name we pray. Amen. Would you welcome my friend Ken Russell today?
They spotted him off in the distance. By the time he had got to them, they had cooked up a plot to kill him. The brothers were saying, "Here comes that dreamer. Let's kill him and throw him into one of these old cisterns. We can say a vicious animal ate him up. We'll see what his dreams amount to." The title of my assignment this morning is When Revelation Hits the Road. When Revelation Hits the Road. Before we begin, I want to just say thank you so much for being amazing hosts. My dear sister, Dr. Crusoe, my dear brother, Dr. Newman, and my big homie, Mike Wilson, and everyone else that I've been able to connect with. I appreciate y'all. I'm from Grand Rapids, and then traveling here, this has really felt like home, and so I appreciate the love that's been shown to me. I've been told that I can flex in a little bit and be home here, so that's cool. We can be family today? Yes. That's cool? And so if we're family, then I'd like to ask a personal question. Has God ever given you a dream? Has God ever given you a dream? A dream in which you're catapulted beyond the current realities and restrictions into a vast pool of possibilities and potentialities? A dream in which what you thought was limiting was actually limitless. A dream in which you saw who you're to become or a situation you're to impact. A dream in which the fresh air of what could be fills you up with the all-consuming power of hope and optimism. Have you ever had a dream? When you have such dreams, you have a choice. On the one hand, you can embrace the dream and embark on a journey of a lifetime, or you can dismiss the dream as just that, a dream. But what do you do when you embrace that dream and you embark on that journey and then life happens? Say you start to explore this dream with excitement and hope and vigor, and then you're met with that deathly and coldless stare of disapproval. Perhaps you share your dream with others, and those you expect to support you and love you and be there for you are those who are actually trying to kill your dream. What do you do when you have a dream? What do you do when your dreams become a nightmare and you're confronted with the blasted hopes and the dark shadows of disappointment? When revelation hits the road. As mentioned, I serve as the Director of Diversity and Multicultural Affairs at Cornerstone. And in addition to fostering a sense of belonging and cultural celebration, I help think inclusively about what we're doing on campus in large. So you see this, for example, in our hiring practices, in our scholarship initiatives, in our student activities. I'm a pastor at heart, and so I thoroughly enjoy partnering with our campus ministries and helping our campus get exposed to different worship styles and different preaching styles. And so I'd like to do that a little bit this morning, to weave together a tapestry of truth, gleaning from the biblical text and from the life of a historical figure. Is that all right? This morning, I'd like to do that with the life and the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. But I'd like to take a different angle. This ain't going to be your typical MLK sermon. I'd like to take a different angle, one that looks at that MLK as the one we may call the dreamer. There's three things we need to learn and know about dreams and revelations this morning. The first is that revelation is a vision of a preferred future. Revelation is a vision of a preferred future. God gives revelation in part to reveal what God intends to do in the days and years ahead. Number two is that revelation reveals what God wants to change in you or in a situation, often through you. In other words, God shows the kingdom strategy, that is, what might be needed of you to extend the territory of the kingdom here on earth. The third is that revelation requires radical obedience. When God provides a vision and instruction, our response is obedience. Dr. King's dream was of a future in which all people, regardless of culture, regardless of color, regardless of creed, lived together in a community. This community was defined by love, hope, and justice. Dr. King had a dream that pricked the consciousness of America so that she would not only change how she was mistreating those on the margins, but she would also change her military and economic structures. Dr. King had a dream that rather than be color blind, you would be color and culture conscious, that you would not look at me differently as your black brother, and that I, as your black brother, would not look differently towards you. Dr. King had a dream that our economics would be more informed by our Christian ethics than our competitive bottom line. Dr. King had a dream that America would go from being the greatest purveyor of violence to a brilliantly shining example of justice and common humanity. This was the preferred future. This was the situation to change. And this is what required radical obedience. America was not living up to her ideals, and that meant telling her that things needed to change, and that things needed to change radically. When revelation hits the road. For the remainder of our time together, I'd like to just extrapolate kingdom principles from the life of the dreamer and that of another dreamer, Joseph, and see how other principles that we can learn as we live into the dreams that God gives us and to Dr. King's dream as well. The first kingdom principle that I'd like to note here is that revelations create revolutions. Revelations create revolutions. God doesn't speak to reveal strategies just to hear God self-talk. God ain't like me. If you talk to some of the folks who have got to get to know me a little bit, they'll tell you, I like to talk just for the sake of talking. But God isn't like me. God says things to make a change. God speaks to make a movement. God's let there be in the beginning created something that was not there so that it would be there. God speaks to create movements, and when God speaks, he reveals to create revolutions. Very few times has God ever spoken to keep the status quo. Very few times has God ever spoken to keep the things the same way as they are. As I said, revelation creates and shows what is often needed to change in us or often through us to extend the territory of the kingdom in preparation for the future. And we see this in Dr. King's life as well as Joseph's. Returning to the text, Genesis chapter 37, 5 and 8. Joseph had a dream. And when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. They said, listen to this dream I had. We were all out in the field gathering bundles of wheat. All of a sudden, my bundle stood straight up, and your bundle circled around it and bowed down to mine. His brother said, so you're going to rule over us? You're going to boss us around? And they hated him even more than ever because of his dream and the way he talked. There are a number of things that we can draw from the text, one of which is that dreamers disrupt the status quo. God dreams change things. Both Joseph and Dr. King had dreams that challenged the prevailing norms and the thinkings of their day. With Joseph, his dream broke the cultural norm that the youngest was to be last. In other words, little bro wasn't supposed to be running the show. Dr. King had a dream that things would be changing. And you see these in both contexts. We later see that Joseph was used so that he'd be able to provide for his family during the famine. And with Dr. King, his dreams broke the prevailing veils of segregation, of racism, of consumerism, militarism, nationalism. And he calls us into justice, into hope, to equity, and to love. Dr. King's dream teaches us that true reconciliation means breaking patterns. In other words, it's easy to go and sit with folks who look like you. At Cornerstone, we're saying that it's easy to use worship songs that are helpful for some but not helpful for others. It's easy to require books that already reinforce what you already think. It's easy to do these things that are normal and comfortable for some but not for others. But Dr. King's dream teaches us to break the patterns of convenience and shallow mediocrity. In the February of '56, it was just right before King was thrust into the ministry and the Montgomery boycott. And King's house was actually bombed. Now, an unknown fact about Dr. King is that during this time, it was common for him to have guns. He had some guns in the house and in the car and some other places. But after this, he realized that a change had to take place. Bayard Rustin and Glenn Smiley, two friends and supporters of the movement, talked to Dr. King about, hey, if you're going to be preaching nonviolence, you can't be having guns in your house. And Dr. King was convicted about preaching one thing and then doing another thing. And so that raises the question, what do we do out of habit that perpetuates the very thing you've been praying God would get rid of? What have you been doing that you've been praying God to change? And how might God be trying to speak a new normal? Dreams disrupt the status quo because the future is too costly. We should also know that dreams disrupt relationships. Everybody who's with you now ain't gonna be with you then. People will leave you when you stop accepting the status quo. People will turn their backs on you when you begin to dream of a different future. People hated Joseph and Dr. King because of their dreams. The text says twice that his brothers hated him even more because of his dreams. At the time, one report says about 63% of all Americans, regardless of background, hated Dr. King. Everybody turned their backs on him. Everybody who turns your back on you, everybody who's with you now will not be with you then. And I say this not to explore Dr. King's thoughts because I would say I'm one who's a student of Dr. King, but I say this to say that there are some things that dreams can only show. And one of those things is that dreams show you who's really with you. Dreams show you. If you want to know if somebody's really with you, tell them your dream and see how they respond. Are they happy and are they supportive, both in action and in deed? Are they excited with you? Are they praying for you? Are they supporting you? Because where you're going to go and where God is trying to get you, the people around you will often have to leave. People will have to change. But here's the thing that dreaming teaches. Dreaming teaches us not to worry about those who left, but worry only about those who stayed. Because if they left, they were probably not for you in the first place. So don't forfeit your dreams because folks don't like you. Can you imagine what Joseph or Dr. King would have done, what this world would have been like if they had forfeited their dreams because people hated them? And so when you get a God dream and you get on the move, you have to learn to allow the dream and the revelation to determine your relationships rather than the other way around. When revelation hits the road. A second kingdom principle we'd like to note is that resistance cannot curtail revelation. God sovereignly decrees a thing, and when he does, regardless of opposition, it comes to pass. Now, as a Wesleyan Arminian, I struggle with that sometimes. But I'm realizing as I get older that that's a beautiful and safe space to be, that I can trust my life and my livelihood and my well-being to the God that sees all and protects all. And so we see this grand strategy of God, taking what we might see as evil, bringing it into the grand strategy of the kingdom. And we see this both in Joseph's life and in Dr. King's. As you continue with the text, we see that Joseph's brothers eventually threw him into the pit and sold him into slavery. While in Egypt, he was sold to Potiphar, and Potiphar's wife tries to seduce him. When I read that, I like to think he looked like me, cute guy, smart, nice smile, little smart, little glasses. But Joseph resists, and when he does, he finds himself in prison. Thing after thing after thing, Joseph is taken farther and farther away from realizing his dream. But here's what we learn. Descent may divert the dreamer, but not the dream. God took all of those things and brought Joseph from the pit to the prison to the palace, second in command in Egypt. Bringing everything back around, Joseph is finally in position to later provide for his family during the famine. Descent may divert the dreamer, but not the dream. And we see this in Dr. King's life as well. Folks like Bull Connor violently rose up against Dr. King in the civil rights movement. Dogs, fire, these are the types of things that typify this type of resistance. But what's fascinating for me is that God uses this to extend the movement. As one kingdom theologian once says, God uses adversity for your advertisement. Flooding the media with those pictures, in part, was a catalyst for change. And so we can learn from Dr. King and the dream that which we thought was supposed to stop us, that which we thought was supposed to divide us, that which we thought was going to take us apart, actually can bring us together and move us forward if we believe in the dream. The dreams will never be diverted, but the dreamer might be. Resistance cannot curtail revelation. One thing that inspires me about Dr. King was his perseverance. He was up against a lot externally, but he also had his internal struggles if you study his life. And I won't go into the details, but I'm amazed that no matter what was going on in his life, he always found his center. When folks literally tried to shame him to death, he kept moving. With his radical obedience, he was called and was committed to what God had called him to, even to the point of death. Dr. King represents that dissent may kill the dreamer, but not the dream. Last April was the 50th anniversary of the King assassination, and we're still talking about Dr. King and the dream. I had the privilege of taking a group of students down to the Memphis, Tennessee at the Lorraine Motel to a MLK 50 conference where we were gathered remembering not only Dr. King, but the work that we're still called to do here in this nation and in around the world. We're still moving forward to live into this kingdom, into this dream. And I believe God can continue the dream, continue the movement, and not only do God's do a work in Dr. King's dream, but also do a work in our lives so that for generations to generations to generations, the world will see there is a God because of the God dreams we live into. I believe in dreams. As I think about Dr. King and Joseph's lives, what stands out most to me is that God is in control. Despite the challenges and despite everything that was involved, God's dreams still come to pass. And what I realized there is that dissent defies the dream giver, not the dreamer. It's a God dream. We're just obedient and do our part. So when opposition rises up, we need to learn not to take it so personally, because opposition in the end is only against God, not us. We have to do what we've been called to do, taking everything that we've done to the glory of the kingdom. Folks will learn eventually not to be on the wrong side of a God dream. But we have to learn not to be distracted, not to be on the wrong side, because at the end of the day, resistance cannot curtail revelation. A third kingdom principle is that responses construct reality. Responses construct reality. How you respond to things actually impacts the experiences that you have. In other words, while you may not be able to change a situation, how you see and respond to the situation directly influences the experience that you have. This goes for you and for those who see your dream. Now, there were a wide range of responses to Dr. King and his dreams. You had white segregationists who adamantly pushed back against everything Dr. King said and did. This type of response typified the South during the time, but you also had the white moderate. Dr. King was deeply frustrated because, well, I'll let his words speak for themselves. Writing from the Birmingham jail, Dr. King writes, I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block is in the stride towards freedom is not the white citizen's conciliar or the Ku Klux Klaner, but the white moderate who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is more bewildering than outright rejection. Now, to give equal time, I'd like to say that everybody in the black community didn't agree with Dr. King either. There were a wide range of folks who disagreed with him as well. So not everybody agreed with him. On one hand, you had the accommodationists. These were people who said, why even push back? Who even cares? There's nothing wrong. Let's just get over it. And they acquiesced to the status quo. And so when it came to make change, they were nowhere to be found. On the other hand, you had the black nationalists, people who said, yes, I agree that change needs to take place, but how you go about that change is very different. I disagree with you, Dr. King, about what change needs to take place and how we go about it. For me, these type responses typify four type of responses that you will navigate as you're trying to live out your dream. The first one is that active opposition. Active opposition. These are folks who will do everything to thwart and subvert your dream and everything that you're trying to do. The second is passive opposition. These are folks who will agree with you to your face, but behind closed doors, it's another conversation. These are people who will put in the work when they say they want to, but when it's actually time to it, the no will be to be found. The third is a hopeless opposition. These are folks who are so nihilistic that it seems that change seems to be hopeless. The last is what I call methodological opposition. These are folks who want to agree with you that change needs to take place, but how you go about it is very, very different, and that's the matter of tension. So as we navigate the landscape of change, as we navigate the landscape of living into our dreams, you will expect to live into opposition. You will expect to have to navigate it. And how you respond to opposition directly impacts your own experience and those who you are navigating your dream with you. But what's the biblical response to opposition to your dream? I'm glad you asked. Returning to the text, Genesis chapter 37, verse 8, and the text says, his brother said, so you're going to rule over us? You're going to boss us around? And they hated him even more because of his dreams and the way he talked. Verse 9, and he had another dream, and he told this also to his brothers. I dreamed another dream, and the sun and the moon and the 11 stars bowed down to me. The text says Joseph's brothers hated him even more because of his dreams and the way he talked. That's because when you have a God dream, you walk different. You talk different. And because when it's a God dream, people will rise up against you. But as we said, it's only God's dream. You're doing your part. And so sometimes you have to say, I'm not arrogant. I'm just anointed. When it's a God dream, you have to push forward. When it's a God dream, you have to push forward. What would it be like when mama and daddy said, you ain't gonna do that? You dreamed another dream. When professors and other folks said, no, that ain't a good idea, you said another dream. When the world says, no, that's not a good idea, won't you hold up? You said another dream. When everybody's saying we should just be divided, we say, no, we're gonna be together, then dream another dream. What would it look like if we dreamed another dream when we experienced opposition? Because how you respond to a dream and how you respond to opposition impacts everything. And so your response has to be another dream. I wish I had somebody here who can testify and will know that I didn't come this far just to come this far, that God has something different for me on the other side of opposition. I wish somebody had an opposition, or I wish somebody could testify that when everybody wants to be divided, that I dream another dream and that people who want to be divided can come together and make a difference in this world. I wish I had somebody who would just say, I didn't come this far to come this far. There is something more on the other side of division. Your response to opposition has to be another dream. What is your dream on the other side? Now, I have to admit that all this talk about dreams and revelation is just me trying to have two separate conversations at the same time. On the one hand, I want to raise the question of our individual dreams. You are here preparing for the future God has called you to. But do you know what God has called you to? Do you know what you've been destined to do? Now, I've been traveling around here and getting to know people, and I know that there are people here from Life Calling to Spiritual Life and to other departments here who want to navigate with you to live into your future. At the same time, I have to raise the question how we as a community are living into Dr. King's dream. Diversity, inclusion, freedom, unity, diversity. These are values God has given us as the church. And that means we will have to move forward. Things will change, but they will change for the better because the Spirit is with us. We will move forward. We will be united and diverse as we do so. So I have to ask and raise the point that both of these conversations, our dreams, Dr. King's dreams, they return to the same two things. The first is the cross. Whether you're in need of discernment of your purpose or you are needing encouragement on your journey towards destiny, the cross has everything we need. As we navigate the conversations of race, of diversity, and multiculturalism, gender, intersectionality, these various things, a variety of emotions will rile up. Anger, confusion, frustration, all of these emotions will come to the table. And I'm here to tell you, my beloved, that we can bring all of these things back to the cross. The second thing is community. As the beloved community, we want everyone to live into their purpose. At the same time, we all want to move forward, and we must move forward with Dr. King's dream, and we must do it together. The cross and community, these are our hope. These are what we have as we move forward with our dreams, Dr. King's and ours. So my SNU family, I just have one other question, and I'm in my seat. What will you do when revelation hits the road? Thank you.